Hello everyone, once again. It's 10 p.m. and it's a perfect time to do some Arch stuff. Yay, we are at the perfect place. Lotko Alt says subvolumes. Kinda, yeah. So, maybe a little bit of intro of what I actually managed to fuck up the last time. Let me just make sure the mic is... So, basically the last time I made an executive decision where I said, hey, I basically need to make this thing just running and, maybe actually go to the gaming part and benchmarking part. So I basically just done a basic installation. And then I once again choose the BTRFS. And then I was like, okay, let's check out the snapshots. It should be fairly easy this time, nothing too fancy. And then it turns out you pretty much, if you want to use the toolset, like the snapper or whatever, or BTRFS tools, the GUI ones or whatever, you need to stick to somewhat a proper convention when creating and naming BTRFS subvolumes. Which means that this time we are once again will be installing everything from scratch, and we will spend a little bit of time at partitioning and quite possibly reading the docs. I hope it's going fairly chill for everyone this fine evening or midday, depending on where you are from. We've really had people from all over the world on this stream. I guess you can also guess what anime I'm watching right now. I'm finally catching up with My Hero Academia. Sadly, I thought that the anime has ended, but it turns out there's still like one season left. Okay, that is done. Oh, and I finally upgraded the YouTube stream description so it actually has a Discord invite link. So if you're interested, you can always hop on to Discord. And I'll be honest, don't ask me questions. That stuff is out there on wikis. Just read the wikis thoroughly. I am the most unpopular streamer slash YouTuber there is. I'm not trying to farm attention. I'm just very lazy. I wanted to check one thing. Oh, yes. Yes, I know what I wanted to do. Very, very quickly. Okay. So once again, quick partitioning. New partition, first sector, last sector 1 gig. EF00 and new partition second, and it will take the remaining space, and it can have the generic Linux file system, right, and quit. Yes, that's partitioning done. So easy. MKFS, BTRFS, dev NVMe 2 and 1 P2. Yes, it has an existing because I am using the very same partition sizes without deleting the data properly, only the partition data. Okay, that's done. So I guess now is the hard BTRFS part. So we'll switch to here, and you can have the enjoyment, have the fun of Googling this stuff with me. So, what does the ArchWiki say about BTRFS in terms of partitioning? File system creation that we have. Multi-device, not interested. Configuring the file system. Well, actually, copy and write is quite cool. Okay, that's some just utilities, subvolumes. Am I not in focus? Weird. So, subvolumes. BTRFS subvolume is not a block device and cannot be treated as one. Instead, BTRFS subvolume can be thought of as POSIX file namespace. This namespace can be accessed via top-level subvolume of the file system, or it can be mounted in its own right. That's a quote coming from archivekernel.org. Each BTRFS file system has a top-level subvolume with ID 5. Once again, each BTRFS file system has a top-level subvolume with ID 5. That's a quite weird magic number. This subvolume cannot be removed or replaced by another subvolume. The top-level subvolume has path / on the file system, and other subvolumes are nested below the top level. However, subvolumes can be moved around the file system and their path may change, whereas their ID cannot. By default, the top-level subvolume is mounted when mounting the file system. Options allow to mount a specific subvolume instead. Exactly. This is where the snapshots will come in. Oh yeah, exactly. Snapshots. See the following for more details. Creating, listing, deleting, mounting. Mounting as root, changing the default subvolume quota. Okay, so because in theory I have already done like the snapshotting and like snapshots of whole root. And I basically was doing this. I basically mounted snapshot as root and then I rebooted, right? SSD trim. Free. Okay, so this is enabled by default, by the way. Interesting, good. Feed extents are not discarded immediately, but grouped together and trimmed later by a separate worker thread, improving commit latency. Can be used alongside periodic trim safely. Okay, more information about enabling trim. Blah blah blah. Swap file. We will not be using swap. The duplication. Okay, and this is known issues and stuff. Okay. What's your partition BTRFS subvolumes? I want to install Arch using BTRFS subvolumes. I searched a lot. I could not find anything. 7 years ago. Okay. Reference diagram below. I named the main sub. Okay, so this might be. I want to say not necessarily irrelevant, but just outdated. So. Jesus, I remember this profile pic. Okay, first you need to understand that BTRFS root subvolume is not the same thing as Linux /mount point. Every BTRFS file system has a root subvolume with level 5. Jesus. But really it's ID 5. All other BTRFS subvolumes are subvolumes of this BTRFS root. I suspect you're asking about layout. Okay, there are several basic schemas of layout. Because I remember, like, why am I just like reading this instead of just creating subvolumes and, I don't know, splitting them into, I don't know, root, home, var, or whatever, is because those snapshot GUIs, those helper programs, basically were like, okay, you need to have subvolumes, but they are like named with add sign, like add home, add root, add var, stuff like that. And I am extremely confused about that. Like, they kinda expect it to be named like that. By the way, if you see me leaning towards the edge, it's because this browser screen is displayed from my laptop, because remember that on my PC I do have basically just this right now, so I think add something is convention exactly, but those softwares basically expect you to keep that convention. You can create subvolumes with normal names, but that makes it obvious. Exactly. That's what I've done the last time. And then I was like, okay, just let me have a little bit of fun with the BTRFS or Snapper or whatever, or Time Machine or whatever. And it was like, I can't do anything. I don't see any subvolumes named according to the convention. So I would say, if I don't find anything interesting here, that will point me as to... I mean, it's interesting that it is a convention, but you pretty much cannot find a thing like about that convention. Oh, it's like this random occurrence, right? Another example which creates subvolumes add var. Consider creating this subvolume directly below top level example add swap, then make sure it's mounted. So it doesn't say, this doesn't say a thing about the add sign as to why even do it like that. Oh, naming subvolumes baffles me. Here are my subvolumes, and he has top level 5 path, varlib machines, test me. The whole add convention pops up in a lot of places, and I suppose I would like to conform to this convention since so much documentation references it. I know it's not required, but I rest easier knowing that that things in the docs match up with what's on my system. My root subvolume is simply named add. I think this follows the convention for root subvolume name. When I installed Archlinux on BTRFS, it automatically created subvolumes for the system D and spawn stuff in /var as I can see above, but there's no add symbol. This bothers me. I suppose I would like to try and rename the subvolumes under /var for consistency. Various things out there on the internet suggest that simply using the mv command is sufficient to rename a subvolume, but that just doesn't add up here. I can't just move varlib machines to add varlib machines. What gives? If I remember correctly, the add convention for naming the system subvolumes was started by SUSE when they adopted BTRFS, and spread because many use Snapper, also developed by SUSE, to manage their snapshots. I think add is usually used to denote the subvolumes you are going to mount, generally in fstab or like blah blah blah. Oh, my YouTube creators is telling me to level up my life. Okay, so they basically introduced a feature to make basically you guys more involved with the stream that I noticed before I went live, and now they just sent me an email about that. Very cool, YouTube, very cool. Beyond that reason you don't want to move blah blah blah. If, for example, I would say the actual reason on my system var is an actual subvolume. Okay. So I guess I have a basic grasp. So now what's left is to test the hypothesis. So file system creation. So let's see what the SUSE has to say about BTRFS. By default, OpenSUSE is set up using BTRFS and snapshots. For the root partition, snapshots allow you to easily roll back. When using a snapshot to roll back the system, it must be ensured that the data such as user home directories, web and FTP. Hans Jochmus, hi. Server contents or log files do not get lost or overwritten during a rollback. This is achieved, but so this is clearly not a desktop approach, but still. This is achieved by using BTRFS subvolumes on the root file system. Subvolumes are excluded from snapshots by default. The default root file system setup on OpenSUSE as proposed by YAS during the installation contains the following subvolumes. They are excluded from snapshots for the reasons given below. I actually do wonder whether on desktop, when you make a snapshot, you actually want to have something excluded. I would argue that if you make a root file system snapshot, you actually want to roll back completely, because you may have, some fucked up something in your /home that auto fires whenever you log onto your system. So in that case, that snapshot would be pretty much worthless. So, a rollback of the bootloader configuration is not supported. Okay, so basically in our case, the EFI partition. Or actually the boot. The directories listed above are architecture specific. So if we are doing legacy boot, basically EFI with /boot. Yes, one important thing not to roll back on Arch is the Pacman database in var. I mean, this does not matter if this shouldn't matter if you snapshot the whole file system. Like if I make a snapshot in LVM and I power down the VM and revert the snapshot and power it back on, the system has no idea what the hell happened. I would assume that those are excluded because they basically can possess lots of meaningless changes that might affect the snapshot's size. If home does not reside on separate partition, it is excluded to avoid data loss. Third-party products usually get installed to opt. It is excluded to avoid uninstalling on rollbacks. I mean, if I installed something and I want and it did break something and I want to roll back, then why not? I mean, this is kind of a server approach, so the root is a home directory. This should also be preserved. srv/srv, yes. Temp, yes. User local with manual installing software is excluded to avoid uninstalling disinstallation rollbacks. I didn't do it either, but I am not using the snapshot feature. I have tried it, and I've actually done it, but I've done it manually, and I actually would like to have it work out of the box. Just because if I am trying to recommend a system installation or setup to someone, then I should pretty much, understand at least what I'm advertising. It's the most important part, because if it weren't for that, I would just install the Arch and be done with it and be like, fuck it, whatever, here's BTRFS or even ext4, go play some games. But no, sadly this has to, when I'll be making the YouTube video out from it, it has to basically have some distinguishing features, which it will already have, mind you, because it will not be installed using just Arch installer, because that's a misunderstanding if you ask me. Old var layout, compressed, checking free space. So interesting, it also says nothing about the add notation. If you want to... Oh, I get it. How do they get this add sign? at the root level. Okay. Back to the void. Oh, sorry. I need to mount it first. So if you want the things to be permanent, so weird that even the SUSE is basically not specifically saying anything about the add sign. Okay, I need to look up one more thing. BTRFS sub volume list. The add sign is optional, but I think Timesheet likes to have its sub-volume names with add. Exactly. That's what I was saying. To be honest, I wouldn't call it optional. I would call it basically a normalized convention at this point, because so many helper tools, GUI tools, basically require your layout to be named like that, and many tools do this automatically. It would be nice if it were better described on the net as to why that happens and how to do that. Okay, so BTRFS. Fedora is not using it. Well, I'm not using Fedora. I mean, the question is whether BTRFS GUI helper software for snapshots works on Fedora. That's the question. Because if it doesn't, well, I mean, like I said, I've already done the BTRFS installation on Arch and blah 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 and stuff like that. And then I discovered that the GUI helper stuff does not really work well without using that naming notation, which is weird. Okay, BTRFS sub volume create. If using timeshift, then yes, use the add notations for subvolumes. Okay, I kind of hanged because oh, I think I know what my problem is. Jesus fucking Christ. So basically doing it like this Or this would work if I was like rooted into /mnt. And since I'm not, I need to do some magic. Okay. BTRFS subvolume create. Okay. Okay. This is so, I don't really want to say complicated, but I have to say this is like terribly described. Like as to how to actually do this shit. So I cannot really show you this, but I will ask ChatGPT. Okay. Okay, so basically what ChatGPT said, he basically said BTRFS subvolume create MNT at, then home, snapshots, TMP, and var. And to be honest, I don't think we need any more. Yeah, I mean, the part I was lacking was that nobody ever basically said do it like this. Basically create /at /at home. You know, that's my problem. I mean, that or the Google searches are very badly profiled for me. Perfect, it would seem. So now we need to, or I need to mount this into a cohesive file system, I would say. I mean, don't get me wrong. I kinda know what I'm doing in terms of just harsh installation. This is like 5th time we've installed Arch on stream. Kek. Oh, sorry. Oh, let's be okay. And I'm 100% sure this will ask me for directory creation first. But I will finish the command first, nonetheless. vme2 n1p2 mnt home. Exactly, mkdir. So we were having like home, temp, var, and snapshots. Home, var, temp. Yep, because you don't really want to snapshot the snapshots directory when making a full root file system snapshot. Var temporary home. Did I make? Yes. Okay. I don't think. Yep. Var temporary snapshots home. I think our file system is cohesive. We still need the EFI directory. So, oh yeah. We might need to also snapshot the boot. That's because ideally I really want to use the group BTRFS hook. Yes, so I would say we also need to do that. I wonder how well it will work. So now we also need to create mnt boot EFI and now mount our EFI partition. Dev nvme2 n1 p1 mnt boot EFI. Perfect. So now I guess it is a time for Packstrap. Jesus. LSB okay still. Oh Jesus. Yep, so we have boot EFI, boot snapshots temp, var home, and weirdly enough our add I would say at the end. So, Oh yeah, pacman key init. And now we can packstrap. So into /mnt base Linux headers AMD ucode Linux firmware sudo vim lv. Oh no, lvm is not needed. mkinit cpio grub maybe in a second. Git EFI boot manager BTRFS progs network manager. Oh, that's weird. I was pretty sure I fixed that on my GitHub notes. So Linux headers, AMD unique Ucode, microcode, Linux firmware, sudo vim, mknet cpio, git EFI boot manager, BTRFS progs, network manager. Yes, we have progs. I'm thinking about grub, so I would guess grub. I think that's all. I think we will install any additional stuff via chroot if we ever need that. Yesterday, I think JZ2Cents published a video about Arch, or basically gaming on Linux, which kinda strikes me that we are in a place where creators that basically make like PC gaming or maybe like, you know, PC building content, I don't think they're fully grasping the situations of what they're saying. I think I have a similar thing with Stop Killing Games, where people are trying to shit on pirate software, which I don't want to say that shitting on someone is okay, but you know, pirate software has basically made some stupid claims, but they are also, I would say, use some arguments where I think they do not necessarily fully comprehend or grasp what this initiative is for, because from what I remember, and I haven't been in touch with that for, I don't know, half a year, from what I remember, I think the biggest problem is not that the games are being produced as live service games and are being closed down. The problem is you are not being told when making a purchase that this is a live service game and it can go down somewhere along the way, right? And I think this is the biggest problem, because if a game which is being sold would say that no guarantee after 4 years that it will be playable, then that would be all right. And everybody is like discussing sharing the source codes for the server side, basically software, which is crazy. Okay, so that's done. I wonder how GenFSTab will handle our BTRFS shenanigans. Nice. Bellissimo. So, passwd, some whatever password, just a test install of man. I bought an MMO Tabula Rasa 1 month before they shut down the servers, never had the chance to play it. Yeah, I mean, this is also, I think, the very big misunderstanding. I mean, the pirate software obviously does not like get it, but I think Ross from Accursed Farms, which by the way, I love his content when it comes to like describing games. I've watched him way long before that. Sometimes when I see some of his materials and I see that it's been uploaded 7 or 8 years ago, it breaks my heart. it realizes that I'm getting old. But anyway, like everybody is talking about like for example the World of Warcraft. The big example like why this does not matter in terms of stop killing games is because it is a live service game with a subscription where you upfront know, like you are aware that you are participating. You are like buying game time. You are not buying the game itself. That pretty much would also be dependent on how the user agreement is formulated, but still, you are upfront informed about that, which makes it basically, you know, a non-argument in this whole discussion. It may be like basically an example of, okay, stop killing games is not necessarily touching those sorts of things. But like I said, this is my knowledge from at least half a year ago, so I'm not sure that the initiative has changed anywhere in that sort of like field, but I also feel that many people that shit on pirate software have never ever themselves read the initiative. Like we have a very similar thing in corporate world, especially in EU, where they are trying to introduce a NIS2 directive. I'm not sure if it's also called like that in English. It's basically like, you know, with security. It basically aims to improve security in a similar way to stop killing games, which is fine. Which is kind of funny to put those together like that. But basically, it makes very vague and general, but still good points as to how to handle security in organizations. And it has like 4 pages of actual stuff, because everything before and after that is like an introduction and non-technical speak and basically like preambulas as to the previous documents that came before it, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. It has like 4 pages of actual text you should read. And it's funny how nobody has done that. Like the whole document has like 40 pages. It is doable. Stop Killing Games is about improving customer rights. Now it's the wild, wild west. There are no rules for the publishers. There are some rules. And that's where you're wrong. There are some rules. Basically, like you cannot sell a defective product, right? I know that Stop Killing Games wants to kinda enter the uncharted territory of live service games. Or maybe not even live service games, but like it is like an additional thing, but it wants to clear out. It wants to clear up the legislature around that. But that doesn't necessarily mean that there are no regulations around that. We also need to remember that EU and US have very different approaches when it comes to consumer rights. Whenever I go to States, I almost never ever buy anything, especially electronics. That's because in Europe, whenever you buy anything like electronics or stuff like that as a private person, not as a company, you have a 2-year, and I don't want to use word warranty, but it's basically a 2-year warranty no matter what you buy. Like, doesn't matter whether it's like an earphones or anything, the law guarantees you 2-year warranty for I want to say non-perishable products, which mainly it means electronics, right? If I buy a $1,000 or $2,000 piece of electronics, I don't want to buy it in the US where I don't have that right. I want to buy it in the EU. Okay. LNSF. Yes, and even in Europe, you'll end up with a discussion in the store after more than 1 year in the EU. No. you bring your purchase receipt, your proof of purchase, and obviously it depends on how it got broke. But most of the time, 9 out of 10, I want to say, you either get a new thing or money return, no questions asked. Like I've bought like some petty stuff like power plugs or stuff, or power outlets, I want to say, where they gave up after a year and 7 months. And you basically file an return form, and that's that. I had it multiple times even this year. Well, I also had it and I really never had any problem with that. Like sometimes they might argue that, whether that damage, is in the warranty like terms, like is it covered by the warranty? They would discuss to void warranty. Yes, but that definitely, if they are doing that, then it doesn't matter whether they are doing a week after a purchase or a year after a purchase. But still, you are like by default protected for 2 years, no matter where in Europe, in European Union you will buy anything. You might be a Polish guy doing your shopping in Germany, and you are still covered. Like for companies, this is a very, very different situation, obviously. Okay, user add. My main my main reason to use BTRFS is the software right. I have 4 hard drives and light compression. Same. So I can't be bothered to move the camera, but I do have an IC box. Can I show it to you? I guess I can. Bum bum bum. So I have basically this. This is like a DAS, a directly attached storage. So it fits 2 3.5 inch full-sized hard drives. And you basically connect it via, okay, so it doesn't have a backpick. But you basically connect it via USB to your server, PC, or whatever, right? And I have it configured as BTRFS. Oh, sorry, I'm just still trying to grasp my Elgato. And I have it configured as RAID 1, basically a mirror. But my reason as why I am like doing this is because it has scrubbing and bitrate detection, which basically means if I am using this for a long-term storage, I am pretty much safe that even if some wild group of neutrinos hit my plates, then pretty much my data is still cohesive. It will be scanned, detected, and fixed. As for 4 drives, I do remember like 2 years ago where it was still like BTRFS was not considered stable enough to do anything more than RAID 0 or RAID 1. I'm not sure how it is now. Personally, I find difficult to do any RAID other than 1 or 0, because if I have like 4 or 5 drives, I would much rather do a single instance Ceph cluster, just because it is so easier and not really easier to set up. Well, it's not difficult at all also, but it's easier to live with it and grow with it. Have your storage grow in time. Like with RAID, you need to make some set in stone, right here and now decisions. And if you want to upgrade that storage, you need to upgrade everything. Like you need to buy 4 bigger drives instead of just one, and incrementally replace them. With Ceph, you can do that, but it's so unpopular. You use scrubbing then? Yes. I mean, I do remember that with BTRFS 2, or like when I was talking about that thing from 2 years ago, there was a case where if you have had a RAID 5 or 6 configured with BTRFS, you might have like booted everything up, and then your data might be gone, which was a cold shower for some. Okay, so I have MKinit CPIO installed. I have other stuff. There the documentation is not clear for me with the scrubbing. It's like with ZFS. I'm not really too technical when it comes to BTRFS with its documentation, how it actually works. But copy on write and scrubbing is quite cool. I think it's enabled by default. Do you need to set up for each subvolume? I have no subvolumes. I just have like BTRFS partition and no subvolumes there. Like it's just like mount into like, I don't know, /mount media. Just like that. Yeah. Okay, grub is installed. So if we reinstall Linux, it should fire up all hooks, do everything. Okay. So grub mk config. Like that. Okay. I'm just not sure whether the grub.cfg lives in /boot or /boot/grub. How brave am I feel? How brave do I feel? Let me do a quick check on ArchWiki. And after that, I think we can reboot and install graphical interface. I think the boot EFI is deprecated. It's not. Many things still expect EFI to be mounted under boot. Do note that this is an actual EFI partition that we have here. So mk config. Yep, boot grub cfg. Okay. So I guess we can reboot everything. You can use either /boot or boot. No. You need to have a dedicated EFI partition if you have UEFI enabled motherboard or system. If you want to use UEFI as your main boot process instead of legacy boot, you need to have a dedicated EFI partition. And if you have a dedicated partition, it has to be mounted somewhere. And typically it's under boot EFI. By the way, if I am like not loud, do tell if my like loudness is okay. You have to separate EFI from / if you want snapshots to work. I have separated the whole /boot. I think that will be okay. Yes, for dual boot, okay. No, not for dual boot. If you boot via UEFI and not legacy boot, you have to have dedicated separate EFI partition. If you do not have a dedicated EFI partition, you are booting in legacy mode. I am very tempted to install systemd boot, but I guess the worst case will just come back to this and fix it in a minute. So reboot. Yes, I'm pressing F11 to enter the boot menu of my motherboard. Arch. So I guess that's that. Yay, grub. We're in. Yes, I know the font is super small. I have /boot as FAT32 and I'm booting with UEFI. Then does it possibly mean that your whole /boot is a separate EFI partition? I'm not saying as to where it's mounted. I'm just saying that you need to have a separate partition. Okay. So now I need to install pacman as open dkms because I do have a proper GPU in this system. It will probably compile some stuff. Oh yeah, I need to look up what was the commands for installing Plasma. To be honest, I'm kinda tired with no graphical login manager. What could I use for Plasma for login manager? And don't say GDM because that completely messes up everything. And we have already covered that during previous live streams. Oh, and NVIDIA, what was it called? No, it wasn't tools. Where was the NVIDIA SMI? NVIDIA SMI is NVIDIA Utils. SDDM is recommended. We can check that out. Use LI. I don't know what's LI. Login. Because I do have to say my favorite method of logging into a system is just plain TTI, and then I just start a graphical interface from a script. LI and oh gee. Oh. Okay. You got me. You got me good, I have to admit. Okay, NVIDIA SMI. And it's not working because oh, it is working. Nice. But anyway, I will reboot everything so it has everything properly loaded. So at least we know everything installed properly when it came to the NVIDIA driver. I do have to say that currently NVIDIA driver is so good, as in it just works. Can I make it one? No, sorry, it doesn't work like that. Okay, so first I need to install Plasma, and to install Plasma, install sudo pacman as Plasma, just Plasma, yeah. We are going with the defaults. And meanwhile, Arch SDDM. Oh, that's not a login manager. The SDDM is like a Oh no, sorry. Sorry. No. I misread I misread one thing. So let that finish and we'll install the SDDM. Okay. Enable the service. So I guess one last reboot. It's fugly on the first login, but appearance can be easily changed in KDE. I mean, it's fine. I don't really want to rise this setup. And a known issue where I just have to reset my Elgato. And we're in. Nice. Ah, shit. I know what I forgot. Oh no, okay, so it will work basically good. So I need some terminal emulator. First and foremost, don't forget Dolphin. I have never ever installed that, to be honest. If you do systemctl enable now, it will enable and start. Yep. The file manager not included in the Plasma group. Doesn't it have like any file manager included, to be honest? Because on my Arch laptop, I have been living for like 4 years without file manager. I'm just using like LS like crazy. Thankfully, everything can be installed as Flatpak, which is interesting. Dolphin is pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody has 99% of their files in downloads. Oh yeah, just so you know, I do have like my thoughts way better organized on the subject. On one of my videos on my YouTube channel, let me do a small self-advert after I launch Firefox. This is a shameless self-promotion, but hey, you're stuck here with me. Dolphin has a built-in terminal emulator which follows the path you're in, which is kind of funny but sometimes useful. You mean like on Windows where you can shift right-click and basically say open terminal window here? Oh, that's the one. Using Archlinux for systems and network administration. This is basically the one where I talk about my laptop is nowhere near me. The laptop I am using for work professionally. I'm actually earning money using that laptop. It's attached to the bottom of the file manager and syncs up where you click in the file manager. Wait. Dolphin has a built-in terminal emulator, which follows the path you're in. It's attached to the bottom of the file manager and syncs up where you click in the file manager. That sounds like a, I want to say, terrible feature creep. Not Alt F4, yeah. I'll keep that in mind. Oh! So it doesn't seem to be following me. At all, I want to say. I mean, nonetheless, it's cool that by using F4, you can basically have it open and close. I mean, still. Okay, so BTRFS. Oh yeah, the program is still running in the terminal panel. Are you sure? Quit. Oh yeah, those are like locations. Can I pin? Yes, I can pin this. Nice. Too bad that the icon is like, but that's a nitpick. Okay, so now one last thing, BTRFS. I don't remember what I was using for Arch BTRFS snapshots. I would have to, and I'm sure it was not Snapper. It was very generic BTRFS something. Oh, here it is. Suggested file system layout. And now that after I've done all of the hard part, now it points me into the right direction. Fuck you, Arch. Fuck you, Arch Wiki. But yes, not Snapper. I think I was using something else. Let me just have a quick peek. Snapper, snapback, and snapper rollback from the hour work perfect. What I was using? I want to say it had this weird Factorio-like icon. I think it was on the previous stream. I think before that I was fucking around with yeah, with BTRFS boot, but maybe I have had that. BTRFS assistant, that's it. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. That's exactly it. Debug edit. Oh my. Was it build tools? I mean, I remember that it's not necessarily many packages, but oh yeah, CMake, CMake, GCC. And by the way, before I actually install it, okay, so those are basically not available via Snap. Yes, that's exactly what I was using the last time. And now it sees everything. Oh, and yes, one more thing. Grab BTRFS. I'll be wrapping up soon. Yeah, I was hoping that this will point me to the pro. Oh yes, grab. Yep. So okay, so it is like available in the mainstream. Nice. So now, and I know that sadly this is painfully manual. Oh yeah, it still needs that that config enabled. Oh, maybe not really. Include timeshift and snapper snapshots, include container subvolumes. So I have to say that, to be honest, for desktop applications with this layout of subvolumes, snapshots are pretty useless. I mean, that's just my opinion. But still. I would say that the biggest advantage the snapshots would have was when you are breaking your Linux installation. And here, well, for example, I can make this rootfs, but that will not affect like anything else. Like, you still need some expert knowledge to dig yourself out of a grave you've put yourself into. But still, I want to try this. So let's, for example, create snapshot of this destination. Interesting. Don't know if Arch still adds the subvol ID numbers in the ETCFS tab, but I would remove them. To be honest, all of these BTRFS shenanigans that you need to be aware of make me think that this is not necessarily worth it whenever doing Archlinux for gaming tutorial or something like that. No, it's using a proper UUID of the partition, and then it basically references the subvolume. So I would say it's fine. Since volume ID, yes, number changes when, yep. I get that. I get what you're saying. No, it seems fine. I just want to basically make at least one snapshot. I don't get this destination part. What the fuck? Like, just let me create a snapshot. Okay, they changed this. I remember a year ago it was... Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I was also like reading about that somewhere. It's funny how sometimes the wikis are full of articles or like passages that are not valid or have not been valid for the past few years because that has been fixed or changed. But there's still like a warning or a section about that. The funny thing is, I specifically installed the BTRFS procs, and now I have no idea how to use it, even though I have used that on one of my previous live streams. It's kinda cringe, I know. I do have a memory of also creating, like, I want to say config. Before creating a snapper configuration for must exist. I mean, the idea is to create a snapshot and place it in snapshots directory. But why that does not work? I mean, it even is outside of home, so... Install snapper and create the config. I mean, you don't have to tell me, I know that, but the idea is we're trying not to pile stuff on top of one another. I think that this should work without snapper, because I also do remember that this was yelling at me about the config the last time, where now it doesn't really do that. The question is why it basically does not allow me to make a snapshot anywhere. That is the question. Maybe I have made some sort of mistake where home snapshots. Sometimes error messages are more clear when launching the program from the console. The idea is that BTRFS, that this is a GUI thing. Like if you want to take a snapshot, you don't even really need Snapper. You can do that with BTRFS just. Yes, yeah, but you get error messages from the GUI app in the console. I mean, he is saying that he could not create a subvolume. Why? Can you share your BTRFS subvolume? Yeah, it's here. Like, I guess that the most successful I've been with BTRFS snapshots was when I was just doing them from a CLI using only BTRFS commands. Ever since then, I have not been able to successfully create and revert to a snapshot. Which, to be honest, it's kind of hilarious. Okay. I guess I can install Snapper and try that out, whether it will work. Manual snapshot. By default, Snapper takes snapshots that are of a single type, have no special relationship to other snapshots. Hmm. Good night, have fun. You too. Thanks. I'll be wrapping up shortly though. Hmm. Oh yes. Mm. Oh, so when it creates config. Interesting. So I guess the lesson in that is not to worry about the snapshots, just install Snapper, create configs, and then live with it. So subvolume delete. Hmm. Hooray. So now don't we have now like two things under has it like overshadowed? It's also weird how everything is so duplicated. Okay, anyway. Snapper C root create now the question is whether our BTRFS assistant, yes, it knows everything. Okay. And let's say that now we want to revert to our snapshots. So grab mkconfig. No snapshots found. And that's concerning. I think it will. Please reboot immediately. Okay. If you say immediately, I might as well listen. Oh yeah, I need to make this little fucky-wucky with the OBS. The thing is, last time we didn't even necessarily boot properly after thing like that. But I think now everything should be alright. And I think it is. One more time. Very interesting. So if we've made the snapshot and have reverted, why is this test file still here? So that only brings me to the conclusion that this whole thing is very undercooked when it comes to just being able to give that to a typical user that's not a sysadmin or has no necessarily background or even interest to work with this, which is a shame, because this could actually be what we remember from the Windows, where there was like checkpoints, you know, revert to checkpoints, stuff like that. This could be it if it was more streamlined and better, I want to say, incorporated. So like I said, I have done previously a root snapshot. I have reverted back to it from a whole file system. It is possible, it can be done. But I do have to say, this depends on so many factors of you actually knowing what you're doing, even on the file, even on the operating system installation process. Which makes me say that this is just not ready to be able to give this to a gamer and tell him that it has his own ass covered in terms of a fuck up or something like that. So I guess that will be it for today. I want to say BTRFS good. Adoption and overall stuff around it still meh. And I think I'll be going with ext4 for the final thing, because BTRFS is just in terms of adoptions and like widespread easiness of use, sadly still undercooked. It still requires some expert knowledge, I would say. Quick question, why you have boot and boot snapshots and snapshots? That's a very good question. I will show you my FS tab before I end. So those are actually mounted as .snapshots, boot, etc. As to why are they visible when listing the root file system, I don't know. I mean, when you read the BTRFS explanation of the subvolumes, they do say that this is like a POSIX namespace and it is visible as a directory, blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. But when you install BTR, like operating system, like Fedora or Arch via some automated installer that does BTRFS for you, if I remember correctly, I have not noticed those also, which is weird. Another question, how you create the subvolume from the installer? I mean, on the installation, when I was installing this, you need to scroll back the live stream and you'll see everything. If you scroll back the live stream, you mount the disk under /mnt and then create a subvolume. Yes. Yes, exactly like that. I mean, doing this is not complicated, like getting know the convention and knowing that this convention is needed for a specific tool for snapshots. That's weird. That's what we were discussing earlier on the live stream. So yeah, if you want to know the details as to how I do, as to how I've done it, and if you want to tell me I'm wrong, you can scroll back the live stream and you can join the Discord. It's in the video, in this live stream description, the invite link. I am happy to basically learn more about this, but still, me for myself, it's okay, but I don't think I can recommend that to anyone when proceeding with a tutorial. So yeah, I guess that's it for today. Thanks for sticking and joining in, and I hope I'll see you next time.